Welcome to News Special. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. Over in Kazakhstan, President Yoon Suk-yeol will soon be receiving an official welcome from Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. Now, let's go over to Ak-Orda Presidential Palace, where the official welcome ceremony is being held for President Yoon by his Kazakh counterpart Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. The president is welcoming the visiting South Korean president. It looks like the delegation of South Korea was introduced to the president of Kazakhstan, and the delegation of Kazakhstan was also introduced to the president of South Korea. The heads of the state inspect the guard of honor. And here in the studio, we have our presidential office correspondent, Kim Do-yeon, to give us a preview and everything about this live coverage. Do-yeon, what do we expect from this ceremonial welcome?
Well, we saw one 5 years ago during President Moon Jae-in's state visit to the country. And from what we're seeing right now, it doesn't seem to be much different in terms of the setting, the military review. So it's going as what we have seen and expected at the moment, yeah.
Yes, right now the national anthems of the Republic of Korea is being played. So right now, the national anthem of the Republic of Kazakhstan is being played. Presidents will be holding bilateral talks later in the day. What will be on the agenda?
Right. Kazakhstan is the largest economy among the 5 Central Asian countries, so there's a lot to talk about there. Very rich in natural resources, and have been, the two countries have been cooperating economically for a couple of decades now. South Korean cars are popular in Kazakhstan, and South Korea is looking into mineral supply chain issue. That's what the Senior Secretary to the President for Economic Affairs said prior to leaving, will be on the top of the agenda between the two leaders.
And it looks like the two leaders are now inspecting the Guard of Honor. All right, and Toyon, what can you tell us about the significance of this trip?
As I said before, South Korea has enjoyed good relations with this country. President Yoon's immediate predecessors visited the country for a state visit. So state visits are really extended by the host nations. So this is not a usual pattern for two successive presidents to visit another country in a state visit. That being in mind, we have the rich in minerals that South Korea is really trying to utilize through cooperation, and infrastructure has always been something that the two countries have been eyeing to cooperate even further with bridges, railroads, and Kazakhstan obviously is the biggest of the five central nations.
Right, so that was the welcoming ceremony hosted by President of Kazakhstan for his South Korean counterpart, who was on a state visit there. And over in Kazakhstan, we have our senior correspondent Woo Soo-young at the presidential palace in Astana as she travels with the president. And hi, Soo-young first, and we have also have correspondent Toyon here. And Soo-young, let's go over to what to expect from this summit. But first, we just saw this opening ceremony.
Right, so we just saw the opening ceremony at the presidential palace in Astana, of course, and well, President Yoon's official state schedule actually began earlier this morning on Wednesday. Yoon and First Lady Kim, they went to the Monument of Gratitude to the Kazakh people in central Astana, where they laid a wreath in remembrance of the forced deportation of various ethnic groups to Kazakhstan in the 20th century by the Soviet government. And the monument also expresses gratitude to the Kazakh people who accepted them, uniting them as a diverse population. So that was quite a meaningful event, especially as those forcibly deported included Koreans, as well as Kurds, Armenians, Turks, Ukrainians, Germans, and many others. Now, of course, we saw President Yoon attend this welcoming ceremony at the presidential palace, where he'll be beginning his summit with his counterpart, his Kazakh counterpart, in just a few moments, I imagine.
And Soo-young, so what will the two leaders be discussing?
Well, the South Korean and Kazakh presidents are expected to focus on sectors like energy, infrastructure, and critical mineral supply chains, given Kazakhstan's abundance of mineral resources such as uranium, chrome, and zinc. Now, such minerals are key components of South Korea's high-tech export items, such as semiconductors, but the resource-poor country lags behind other advanced economies, having only 36 mineral mines globally compared to the United States' near 2,000 and Japan's 34, according to Korea International Trade Association's analysis. Now, President Yoon will also aim to support Korean companies to secure projects in the energy sector and infrastructure as well in Central Asia's largest oil-producing country. He's also going to try to deepen cooperation in other strategic areas such as development, tackling climate change, and collaborating in science and technology as well as ICT.
And Soo-young, what does President Yoon's itinerary look like afterwards?
Well, following the summit, the two sides will deal at a signing ceremony and hold a joint press conference, followed by a state luncheon. Now, after the official state visit events are over, President Yoon will head to a Korea-Kazakhstan business forum, where he will deliver a keynote speech to prominent figures in the business world from both countries. And in the evening, the South Korean leader will wrap up his visit to Astana with a concert featuring South Korean and Kazakh performers.
I see. Thanks for updating us, Soo-young. That was our presidential office correspondent, Woo Soo-young, reporting live from Astana. Toyon, you and I are going to discuss a little bit about this summit. So South Korea and Kazakhstan began their diplomatic ties in 1992. Bilateral relations have been strong since then in a range of fields. Tell us about their ties over the past 3 decades.
Right, and as you said, they began diplomatic ties in 1992. They gained their independence in 1991, so that's just the year after their independence, after the fall of USSR. One of the big milestones for the bilateral relation was back in 2009 when the two nations became strategic partners. But even before that, they have been cooperating in terms of infrastructure. We saw railroads, bridges being built by South Korean engineering companies in Kazakhstan. And as Soo-young mentioned in her report, they are rich in uranium, chrome, and zinc, all essential for South Korea's economy itself, right? So the cooperation and even more room to grow is there. Now, but we do have to emphasize the cultural aspect between the two countries. As Soo-young also mentioned, there have been Korea-Kazakhstan in Kazakhstan, ethnic Koreans that were deported back during early 1900s by USSR. So from the roots, the two countries share a lot of similarities. Kazakhstan itself is very diverse. So bilateral relations overall have been good so far. Yeah.
You pretty much touched upon there, but how significant is Kazakhstan in terms of diplomacy, supply chains, and trade?
Right. Before leaving, we heard the presidential office say, with the war in Ukraine, the region is critical, right? It's the bridge between Asia and Europe. It works as the logistics hub for many companies. So geopolitically, it's very important. And Kazakhstan, of course, as we've mentioned, is the biggest economy among the 5 Central Asian countries. And we saw, now this is not just South Korea, we saw China host a summit with the 5 Central Asian countries right during last year's G7 summit. So this is something, this region is where a lot of big players in the global world is trying to gain cooperation with, build up relations with.
And this is the second leg of President Yoon's week-long trip. Prior to this state visit, he was in Turkmenistan, where he forged cooperation on energy and infrastructure with that country. His next stop will be Uzbekistan. Overall, what does the top office say about the significance of this region, Central Asia?
Right, and I think Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan all very crucial, and it's been crucial for some time for all countries that are trying to gain global influence in the world. As I've mentioned before, President Moon Jae-in went on state visit to those 3 countries, and the invitation was extended to President Yoon, right after President Moon's term. So they're opening their arms to South Korea as well. But before leaving, we do have to mention the K-Silk Road initiative that the Yoon administration announced. This is the second type of strategic initiative or plan that focused on regions by the administration.
And tell us in more detail about President Yoon's K-Silk Road initiative. Well, this initiative is followed by ASEAN initiative and the Indo-Pacific initiative by the Yoon administration.
Right, it's similar in the aspect of, we're extending ODAs, expanding funds to help these developing nations to grow. And while the key focus is the cooperation and resources, and these countries are rich in minerals that South Korea really lacks. And also, a company is a big one, because a lot of these countries share cultural roots, right, with ethnic Koreans living there. So it touches upon all aspects to the strategic plan.
And briefly, before I let you go, what's in store for President Yoon for the rest of his schedule in Kazakhstan? He'll be staying there for 3 days.
Right. We'll be reporting on the joint press conference. That will be the big one, because then we'll know what the 2 leaders really talked about. There will be a state luncheon, part of the state visit engagements. Now, he also has business forum, and the 2 leaders will make keynote speeches then. And part of the state visit also has the cultural performances from both countries, so we're very excited to look out for that one.
All right, thanks, Toyum. That wraps up our special coverage, and we will also bring you live the 2 leaders' joint press conference later in the day and the latest news throughout the day. Thank you for watching.